Hey, we are live.
Okay, so before we get started, I just want to state all applicants, if you are not muted, please mute yourself. And you can speak once your case is called. And I think that Tom Worth wanted to make a statement before Chris goes through his welcome statement.
And Chris, I looked at it, and Chris's welcome statement will be enough with regard to the procedure for tonight. One additional thing with regard to the procedure tonight, though, that's a wrinkle, is that we will not be arriving at final decisions. The board will not be making final decisions on the 3 applications tonight because of a mistake made in posting notice of the hearings with signs at the premises of these 3 places. They were not done. So we will have the regular hearing, presentation, questions, reading of public comments, but then the board will not be making a decision. They'll be holding the hearing over to next month. And our apologies on behalf of the city for the inadvertently not getting the signs out at these 3 premises. And with that, I'll turn it over to our chair, Chris Coretta, to describe the regular procedure for tonight.
Thanks, Tom. And welcome everyone to the June 3rd, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. Chris Snyder, just to keep in line here, did you want me to do introductions first with everyone and then I can get into the statement, or would you rather do that the other way around?
How do we typically do it? We
usually introduce ourselves first.
Yeah, let's do that then.
Okay. Well, my name is Christopher Coretta. I'm a real estate professional. I live in the Grove Place Preservation District. I also sit on the Landmark Society Board, as well as a member of their executive committee. We'll next start with Debra Beardsley. Would you please introduce yourself, Deborah?
Hi, everybody. My name is Debra Beardsley. I'm a designer and a design professor at RIT. I'm a city resident. I live in the 19th Ward.
Thank you, Deborah. Ed Kane, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ed Kane. I'm a resident of the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you. Jim Deviney, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Jim Deviney. I live in the Cornhill Historic District, where I am the Cornhill historian.
Thank you, sir. Jason Dobbs, Vice Chair, would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Jason Dobbs. I'm an architect here in the city. I live in the Mount Hope Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you, sir. Gerald Gamm, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Gerald Gamm. I'm a professor of political science and history at the U of R, and I live in the East Avenue Preservation District.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Dave Matthews, would you please introduce yourself?
Thanks, Chris. My name is David Matthews. I am an architect and I live in the Highland Park neighborhood.
Great.
Staff? Go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say staff. Go ahead, Chris.
Okay. My name is Chris Snyder. I am the staff to the zoning staff to the Rochester Preservation Board, and then I'm going to go Jill and then Tom Worth.
So I'm Jill Wiedrich. I'm the manager of zoning.
Hi, my name's Tom Worth, and I'm with the City Law Department and lawyer for the board tonight.
All right, well, thank you very much, board and staff. I'll start with the opening statement, welcoming statement. Good evening, everyone. We are meeting tonight under extraordinary circumstances. Due to state and local emergency orders requiring social distancing, earlier at our pre-hearing meeting, we amended the Rochester Preservation Board bylaws to allow us to conduct this hearing as authorized by the governor's and mayor's emergency orders, and to waive other requirements in order to proceed with this online hearing. These waivers permit us to hold this hearing by teleconference with no in-person attendance allow applicant presentations by teleconference, and require all public comments, both in favor of and opposed to the application, to be submitted in writing by email or by hard copy document mailed to the zoning office or deposited in the secure drop box located in the link entrance to City Hall. All written public comments were all required to be submitted by 5 p.m. yesterday. Although this hearing has been altered for some of our normal procedures, many things remain the same. All the normal notifications for this hearing included mailed notice, publication, and the posting of notice were followed. All the normal timeframes for applicant presentations and comments in favor of and opposed to the application remain the same. And most importantly, this board will hear, review, and make decisions about all the applications with the same diligence and using the same standards as required by the zoning code. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone that when a case is called, the applicant will be allowed 15 minutes to present. The applications are posted on the city website and available for the public to review. All applicants were advised to ensure that their applications were complete and included all information that they intend to present at this hearing tonight. As the application is presented, staff will, as reasonably possible, follow the pages of the application the applicant is addressing. Following our normal procedure, the board members may ask the applicant questions. If during the hearing, the board determines that substantial new evidence has been submitted by the applicant during the presentation or is given in response to questions by the board, the case will be adjourned to the next announced hearing date to allow the public to review that new evidence and to submit additional comments. After the applicant's presentation is completed, staff will read into the record any comments received after the comment deadline that are not already posted on the city website. There will be no call-in comments. After all the comments have been read, the applicant will have 5 minutes to offer any testimony and rebuttal. This is what will differ tonight. The board we normally commence deliberations and voting after the public hearing of each agenda item, with the exception of applications that are being adjourned. Please also note that if your case is approved, well, in a case would have been approved today, a written decision would have been mailed within 15 days. As Tom Worth mentioned, we will be holding off on deliberations this evening, but we will carry on the rest of the hearing. I think that's everything. Chris, did you want to introduce the first case, please?
Yes, I can do
Chris,
that.
If you don't mind, if we could hold off with, if we could delay the first case, we're having a little bit of a technical issue.
Okay. Should we move to, we'll move then to case number 2 and then loop back around to case 1. So let me go through here and then I can call the case. Give me one moment. Okay. Case 2 tonight, which is the first case being heard, is file A-064-19-20 for a certificate of appropriateness. The applicants are Jonathan Wunderlich and Mara Fernandez. The address is 149 South Fitzhugh Street. And the request is to install a line of trees along the north and south boundaries of this property and to paint ornamental features of this local landmark with a different color paint than the existing.
Chris, did you want to mention it about board members
Visiting this? Yeah, so all board members visited this site.
Thank you. Is Jonathan Wunderlich and Mara Fidesz with us?
Hello, yes, we are.
Okay, great, thank you. I just need to swear you in. Do you both solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We do.
We do.
Thank you. You wanted to give us your presentation? That would be great.
Yes, perfect. So we do have 2 requests, and I will start on with the request for the trees. Not the trees, the privacy bushes. The situation that led us to do this is not only the state of the adjacent building in the sense of the building next door to us on the north side of the house has some broken windows, boarded up windows. And because of the proximity of the 2 buildings, we do have that constant presence. And so we started to try to think about ways of being able to create a little bit more privacy in a way that would be cohesive with the rest of the neighborhood. And so what we are trying to do is to plant some arborvitae that would go up to 10 feet is what we are hoping to get. And as you can see on the photo, if you turn to page 5 of our application, you would be able to see that the lower windows, which are the most deteriorated windows on the building, they are not inhabitable space. These are the storage windows of that side of the building. And so we would try to get a line along the entrance of the driveway so that we would be able to provide a little bit more privacy to the house and also a little bit more security. I was listening in terms of your pre-hearing, and in terms of the narrowness of the lot, I did want to explain the space between the edge of the driveway and the building. It's about 5 feet, a little over 5 feet, of which we own 2 feet off from the driveway. The driveway is actually wide enough to get a car easily, and we do have space on the left side of the driveway. And the trees would not really go above the property line. These are trees that do not shed. And these are trees that we would also be willing to fully commit annually in terms of the upkeeping, the trimming of the trees, in case that that's a condition that could be required. That's on the south side of the house. I know that also it was mentioned that the trees were very close to the edge of the properties. We do not need those trees. We have spoken to our next door neighbors. We decided to include them on the application in case they would want to, because our house also has an access on that side, and they're perfectly fine with their presence there. So we were doing it more for them. We also can do them very far from the property line if that were to be the decision. That's definitely no problem. But our biggest focus really are the trees that we would plant on the north side, separation from the building. In terms of the stones that I also was paying attention to this, I do want to clarify that we had some masonry work done on the foundation of the house, and I did inquire as to the work of the painting of the stones. They are already painted. The house at some point was painted gray, all of it, and they tried stripping that front. They couldn't strip it, and the masons were saying that they do not advise to strip because it would probably cause erosion with the chemicals. It would ruin the stones. And that is why we decided that painting it white to go along the trimming of the rest of the windows would be the best way to tackle that. That's really the thing with the stones.
And Mr. Coretta, I wanted to make one quick comment. It's interesting. We were there today, as we are every day, working on the garden and doing things outside. And just obviously, it's not lost on me the last week that we've all been through as a guy that's born and bred in the city of Rochester. And I wanted to throw out there that, it's important for me that the board understands we're not trying to separate ourselves from our neighbors. I look at that building essentially as a potential landmark building, by the way, because I don't know when that was constructed, but I know that it wasn't in the last 50 years. And we want to embrace our neighbors, and we spent the day doing that in a pretty cool way as a kid from Rochester, just listening to music and working in our garden, and everybody, I think, feeling that necessity to communicate and to connect. But at the same time, it's to enhance our house. We love it. And there is some negligence next door. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm not going to pretend like we're going to look at next door and say, well, that's a perfect scenario. It's not. But I also don't want to get into a conflict with the owner of the property next door. So for me, this is a really good compromise that we can look at we can look at the building. We can be connected to our neighbors, but at the same time, we can make sure that the aesthetic of the neighborhood is in place. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Anything further with the presentation, or pretty much set with it?
No, I do believe that is everything. I just wanted to clarify the width of the space between the two properties, as I felt that was probably not clear.
Right. It's a beautiful property. I know it well. I showed it twice when it was for sale. I actually wrote an offer on it, but my guys didn't get it.
Ah,
I'm
Oh,
very
no.
happy to hear that.
I'm 70% excited about that and 30% terrified. But
No,
anyway,
it's a beautiful property, and
It is.
we appreciate you coming to us and working with us on it very much.
we consider ourselves stewards. We will do that for every single small detail because we're gonna build a family there and we're gonna live there the rest of our lives.
Yes, I already feel that Chris hears from me a couple of days a week,
Oh, yeah.
even with random
We're-
questions. What do you think about this? So
Sorry, we apologize in advance for that.
Okay, well, we'll open it up to questions from board members. And I guess we'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, do you have any questions?
I think the only question I have, I'd like to hear a little bit more from Mara. You mentioned that there's a 2-foot space from the edge of the driveway over to your property line where you're planning for the trees. Did I hear that correctly?
that is correct.
And I'm thinking you're planning for arborvitaes, and are you assuming that the maximum size of the arborvitaes would be a 2-foot diameter, like a 2-foot footprint, so-called? Because they do get wider.
Yes, for what I understand, we will trim them because we also don't want to let them grow to their full extent. An arborvitae can keep going upwards of 14 feet, as you can see in some of the examples that we even brought from other houses in Cornhill, like on page 6, you have 53 Atkinson. Those are also arborvitae, and you can see that they go way past the 20-foot mark. We do not intend on letting our trees grow past 10 and narrow. So that is why I was saying that we do commit to the trimming and keeping the trees under control.
Yeah, I heard you say that. I'm not 100% familiar with pruning arborvitaes, so I don't know if you can keep them to 2 feet diameter. I don't know if anyone else on the board knows that, but
The provider that I have spoken with, and I do not have the information from the provider included here, but it's Fast Growing Tree Company, and they do say that you are able to prune them as long as you keep the conical shape. You are able to get them under control. So that's the intent.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Deborah, thank you. Ed Kane, questions, please?
Just a couple. When you plant these, about how tall will they be?
We are looking to be able to acquire the 6-foot tall. They come in a range. For what I have offered is the 5 to 6 feet tall. So they would range anywhere between 5 to 6.
Okay, and then just a clarification, what you were saying about the trees on the other side. Are you planning or not planning to put trees in?
We don't really need to plant the trees on the south side.
Well,
with the neighbors.
but it's funny. We have a great relationship with these neighbors already, and we had the same idea of basically lining the property with these trees. And so basically, there's how much property line is there? Maximum 2 feet on the.
No, they're talking about us with the south side.
That's what I'm saying. On the south side neighbors, which is what I'm referring to. They actually made they kind of proactively went ahead and planted their own plants along the property line this year before we had a chance to speak with them. But at the same time, one of the things that we talked about was having the exact same trees and privacy trees essentially lined against their sort of vulnerable spots and on the property line, obviously to add privacy.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ed. I have no further questions. Jim Deviney, any questions?
No, the questions I had have been addressed, so I'm fine.
Thank you. Jason Dobbs, do you have any questions for the applicants?
Yeah, just a couple things. One, I just wanted to ask Deborah to take a look at 86 Adams Street. You can see there, it's on page 7. It's kind of hard to see in there. but those arborvitae in front have been trimmed way down, and they look very nice. And they'll,
Yes.
if you trim them to that level, they'll work fine along that little strip on the driveway.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible to keep them under control.
And it's interesting you say that, because we have a lot of buyer's remorse, because that house was just recently sold on the market. And wait, not buyer's remorse. We love our home, but I have to admit that was I'm so excited to meet the people of that house and congratulate them on that amazing deal, because that's a beautiful property. But yes, we did take that photo ourselves, and it's a great example of how they can be pruned.
Yeah, it's good arborvitae inspiration.
Right,
And,
exactly. If that's ever been said before.
My other thing was just to clarify for the record that your repainting is going to be only on masonry that already has paint applied to it, and there will be no paint going on new unpainted or old unpainted masonry.
Correct. If you look at the photo on page 8, this is actually, and I do apologize for that one, that is actually what I want the house to look like afterwards. So you can see the trimming on the top of the windows. It's already white in that photo. Those, exactly. Those are the ones that are currently painted gray. We do not want to paint over anything that is not currently painted. So we will not be touching all the vertical axis of the house, the vertical stonework. We will not be touching the horizontal lines on the foundation. It is just the gray parts that, frankly, I want to get rid of, because I feel that it, and the other thing that I wanted to add with that, because it was before the 70s, it is probably lead containing. The masons also were telling us. So it would be another whole process to try to strip them. But those are the only ones that we want to paint. We do not want to paint over clean stone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Gerald Gam, questions for the applicants?
Yes, I first of all just want to thank the applicants for coming forward and for being such great stewards of this important home. So one question.
Starting.
Hi. One question just to follow up on Jason. So I visited the house. I'm looking at photos of the house again. It's a beautiful home. Why the stone right now, I understand, is painted. Why not leave it its current color, which matches much more the other stonework on the house, the corners of the house, the base of the house? Why not make stone look like stone rather than make it look like wood? Can you just talk us through that logic? Because another way to treat the stone would be either let the paint wear off over time and let it return to echo the other stone in the house. Or if you were going to put a fresh coat of paint, paint it to match the stone rather than to match wood.
No, and I do understand your concern. The thing with it is right now, the gray matches, as you were able to see when you walked over the house, the gray doesn't really resonate anywhere else. The foundation on the stonework of the house, it is actually a light mauve. That's the color of that stone. The vertical stones are a beige tone. I would be happy also painting it beige to match the vertical stones, but I do feel that the gray, the only thing that it resonates with is as you visited the house, you remember on the north side of the house where the crosses are, that is wearing off. So you can see how the difference between how the paint is wearing off on the brick, which gives the house character, which makes it look like it has a history, which it does. It's not really going the same way with the paint is really staying there. I have not been able to find any part of the house where the stone is peeling. And again, I feel it doesn't resonate with anything. And I do think that in that sense, it's a little bit one of those things. The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I do apologize, English is not my first language, but it's one of those perception things. I think it would brighten up the house rather than what the gray does right now. Is it darkens it a little bit because it resonates with those patches. But yes, we could be enticed to painting it the light beige of the vertical stones. That I think we would also be happy to do so. I just want to be able to lighten that color up.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying. So you would be willing to paint it the light beige of the vertical stones. Your preference would be to paint it the exact same white that the window trim is already painted.
Exactly.
Okay, and last question I have, just because I think there's been some ambiguity on this. Assuming the Preservation Board grants you authorization, did you want to plant those trees on the north side?
On the north side.
South side. I think you mean.
So there are two sides, the driveway, I think
Right.
it is driveway side and then the other side. So it's clear that you want to plant the trees on the driveway side. Did you still want to plant the trees? Yes, on the upper side.
It's a great question. And it's funny because every day that I'm out in the, I mean, obviously you guys understand when anybody's out in their property playing with their things in spring, they're best friends with their neighbor. And like, I'm not going to say I'm best friends with my neighbor, but we speak every day. So the 3 plants that he planted,
They're hostesses.
they're hostesses. They're not going to jump. And the thing that is difficult for us, the answer to your question very quickly is yes. I would absolutely prefer to put some trees up there as well.
Okay,
But
that's honestly, that's all I need to know. We could even give you authorization and then you could decide not to use it.
Exactly.
But it sounds at one point like you were withdrawing that request. You'd at least like.
I'm sorry.
permission
No,
do the
to be
planting.
very clear, about that request, which we did have in there, is that we requested from our neighbors directly, and he showed us the hostesses that he had actually planted. And I have to just say, as a guy that's been out there with him, 4 out of 7 days a week for the last 3 weeks, is that, he was like, these are going to grow up to this size, and I think they're going to look nice. And I just kind of looked at that as, okay, these are 2 neighbors that have figured out how to do this without,
We do want the permit.
we would
yes.
love to have the permit to put those trees there, because they're against a flat part of his house where there are no windows.
So I'm sorry.
I can't imagine him saying no.
Okay, so I'm sorry, but I'm asking a really simple question. Do you want the permission?
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Gerald. And Mr. Matthews, Dave Matthews, any questions for the applicants?
I don't. I think that the previous board members have gone through all my questions. I think, if you want to take a look at your colors again for the stone, I mean, you have them a little bit of time. The more authentic the stone looks, probably the better it's going to be, and it might provide some contrast with the bright white of the windows and the wood trim. So, as a suggestion, maybe take a look at getting the stone to match. But that's my only, I guess, comment. I don't have any other questions.
All right, great, thank you. All right. Chris Snyder, do you have any testimony statements that you'd like to read into the record?
There is no testimony for this case that has been provided in writing by yesterday, the 2nd of August, or I'm sorry, the 2nd of August, June 2nd, 2020, by 5 p.m. There has been no public comments since that day. So, no.
All right, great, thank you. Seeing that we're not going to deliberate, did you want to just close the case?
Oh, no, don't close it.
No?
No, because we're not officially going to close it because we will
Okay.
we'll continuing the hearing next month.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so there will be no deliberations. So I'll just read there will be no deliberations for this case, just for the public who are tuning in on YouTube. We are going to move the deliberations for all items tonight to the July hearing. This case will remain open and be heard at the July hearing again for a decision to be made. And that is due to we did not send out signs to be properly posted on properties for this month's hearing. So we're having to have the hearing tonight without a decision. And then next month, we're going to review the cases again. So we're now going to move on to, it looks like our applicant, those technical issues are resolved, Jill, so we can go back.
They are, so you can go back to case number 1. Thank you,
Okay.
Chris.
So we're gonna go back to case
Thank you.
1.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you guys very much. We appreciate you and we appreciate you being this involved in everything we're doing.
Thanks. So now we're going to go to case 1. Case 1, file A-063-19-20 for a certificate of appropriateness. The applicant is Angelo Ingracia of Rock Goodman LLC. The address is AKA 1100 South Goodman Street, the Old Colgate Divinity Campus. And the proposal is to install approximately 8 linear feet of 4-foot tall steel ornamental fencing at the west entry of this site along campus. So Ange, if you want to step up and
Actually, Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt. Did you just want to mention
the
that?
site, yes. So all board members present have visited the site.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Ingracia, I'm going to swear you in. Are you on with us?
Yeah, barely. Sorry about that.
Okay. No problem. Thank you. Thank you.
I have to say that the individual that was going to be joining the meeting today, we misunderstood what was going to happen. So the individual from the fence company that was going to join the meeting is not available, unfortunately. And my son Jay, who's going to run this meeting, is also unavailable right now. So because we thought that this was tabled, and that's our fault. We made a mistake.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Mr. Ingracia, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. And
I-
wanted to give us the information that you have to give. We'd appreciate it.
Is there any other further information that you need besides the information that's provided on the application with the with all the exhibits and all the descriptions of what we're proposing?
Not really. I mean, if there's anything you wanted to add or give us kind of just a brief description of what you're trying to do so that the people on YouTube as well can get a good idea of it, would be helpful.
So unfortunately, again, because I'm ill prepared, I don't have any of the documentation in front of us. But what Chris said earlier is exactly what we're trying to do. To the north of the most northerly pilaster on the entryway, we're trying to add some fencing along that area. I don't have the approximate length. Again, I don't have the documents in front of me. And then in between the 2 pilasters that are where the sidewalk walks up into the property, we're proposing a gate in that location.
So Ange, this is Chris Snyder. I'm guessing you're not in your call. You called into this meeting, correct?
Yes, I did.
So you don't have the benefit of seeing the visual aspect of the document, but I've turned to the pages just to show the board members and just for the people on YouTube as well, so that they have a better understanding of the application as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
All right. So if we have everything in front of us, I think what we'll do now is we'll open it up to questions for board members to Mr. Ingracia. We'll start with Debra Beardsley. Debra, do you have any questions?
The only question I have is just wanting to hear a little bit more from the applicant about the choice for steel fencing, for the steel material.
Again, unfortunately, my son, who worked together with the fence manufacturer, I believe what we were attempting to do was try to best match what we were able to obtain to make it match what is already existing on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Ed King, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Thank you. There were a couple of questions that I'm next alphabetically. There were a couple questions that came up in the pre-meeting, and I think I'm going to let the other members who brought them up ask those questions, but if we forgot toward the end, I'll come back. So, but I have no other questions other than the ones that came up in the pre-meeting. Jim Deviney, do you have any questions?
Oh, my reaction to the proposal, I found a little bit confusing because I wasn't exactly certain where these things were going to happen. That area to the north of the entryway, I kept trying to compare it to the photograph and I wasn't sure I was in the right place. And I got thoroughly confused because there was that talk about the 80 linear feet of aluminum fencing. And I thought that there was some intent to do something with that as well, perhaps to replace it. But that was just extra information that was thrown in that just kind of confused the whole point for me a little bit. But no, I guess now that I figured out exactly how limited the actual proposal is, it is that area just around that entryway, as I understand it, and not any of the other fencing that goes down along Highland.
Not at all. Yeah, we're not touching any of that.
Okay, in that case, no, I don't have any more questions at this time.
Great, thank you very much, Jim. Jason Dobbs, questions for the applicant?
I have no questions. I just have one request, since we have the benefit of one more meeting. When you come back, could you have your fence guy provide a sketch of what the gate will look like with the two pilasters on either side of it?
Sure. We don't have, that's not already in our submittal.
No, we kind of have like a generic what the fence is going to look like, but it doesn't represent a gate.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Next, Gerald Gam, any questions?
Yes, and I also want to thank you for being here tonight. So I have the same request, a slightly more extensive one than the one Jason just made, which is not just to include in the submittal an image of the gate, but also to show how the fence relates to the brick pilasters. Is that what we're calling them? Pillars? I'll call them pillars. So can you show an image both of the gate and also how the new fencing relates to the pillars? And I also want to follow up on Jim Denny's question. I had the same confusion he did. There were 6 or 7 pages in the proposal referencing the fencing and gate on Highland. Are you saying that's not part of the proposal?
No.
So why, just I guess for my curiosity, why are there so many photographs of the fencing on Highland and images of finials that seem to match the finials on?
I think that was an attempt to reflect what is existing and our attempt to match what is out there and to demonstrate that we were doing our best to match what was there.
Okay, so you're not doing anything at all on the Highland side?
No.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so better and fuller images of what you're proposing would actually be quite helpful.
Yeah, so you know, basically on the north, there's 2 pilasters that are on either side of the driveway. There's 2 pilasters on either side of the driveway. And so to the pilaster on the north side of the driveway, all we're trying to do is put a piece of fencing attached to that pilaster going in a northerly direction. And I guess 8 feet, is that what it says? I apologize. Again, I don't have it in front of me. How many feet is that?
It does say,
It's 8 feet, I thought.
I think it says 8 feet.
Yeah, that's all.
What anchors it on the other side? So you have the pilaster on one side. What is
just the post.
Okay.
Just a regular old post and a fence. That's, you know, that's nothing. This is a very simple, very basic proposal. That's all we're doing there. And then in between the other 2 pilasters to the south of the entrance, there's a sidewalk that goes in between those. And what we're proposing is to put 2 posts so that we're not affecting the pilasters, and then put that gate in between the 2 posts. That's simple. But I'm happy give you an image. We haven't this is not a manufactured gate that we're pulling off the shelf. So I can't give you like a picture of it because I haven't produced it. I could only give you the images and show you what it would look like. And that's what we provided, because this is not something we're pulling off the shelf, and we're actually building it from, from materials.
Okay, so my last question, I understand the logic of the pedestrian gate and how that's appropriate between the two pilasters. Can you just talk us through the logic of just having a section of 8-foot fencing past the pilaster that's not the pedestrian gate? Because visually, I just worry that it might just seem added on, like lonely there. Can you explain what the logic is for it?
Yeah, so we have people that are walking through that area, entering the property.
Couldn't they just walk around the other side of the new stretch of fencing?
Well, the only place they could walk through now is through the driveway. I mean, let me say it another way. If you want to climb up the hill, you can get in no matter what you want to do. This is just trying to deter people from just walking freely on the property.
Okay. Thank you for your time tonight.
No. Again, I apologize that I don't have the documentation in front of me, and I don't want to raise expectations for the next meeting on what I could provide to you. So, in regards to that, the fencing, the gate that going between the two pilasters, I don't know if I could produce anything further besides what we've already submitted, because we have not built that gate.
Okay. I mean, anything you can provide is helpful. I already understand the project so much better than I did 15 minutes ago. So thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gam. And Mr. Matthews, any questions for Mr. Ingrassia?
Yeah, there's a little sketch that you provided on the fence. If we can just get something similar with its attachment to the pilasters, I think that's all. We just want to know intent, like of what you're trying to do there and what the outcome is going to be in the end. So, if you can get another little sketch in there, that would be great, showing the intent. We appreciate it.
Okay, we'll do our best.
Okay. Mr. Snyder, any testimony statements to be read into the record?
Yes. Give me 1 second. I minimize this. Let me make it large.
And while you're at it, could you mention whether all the board members went to the site?
Yes, I actually did mention in the beginning. Chris had reminded me. But thank you, Tom.
I have a checklist here, Tom. I'm making sure.
Yeah, he's making sure that I'm
Keep on top of it.
yeah, on top of me.
Thanks.
Yep. So this is the public testimony for case 1, A-063-19-20, 1100 South Goodman Street, the former Colgate Divinity site, for the June 3rd, 2020 hearing. All written comments were due June 2nd at 5 p.m. for inclusion into the public record. All written comments which were received after May 27th will now be read into the record. All other written comments can be found in the staff report. Please note that all comments were provided to the board in advance of this hearing. So there were no comments provided prior to the publishing of the staff report on May 27th. There was one that came in last night prior to close of business at 5 o'clock. So I will read this into the record now. It's addressed to the Preservation Board, City of Rochester, New York, 30 Church Street, Rochester, New York, 14614. And this is the statement. I reside at 1068 South Goodman Street, just north of 1100 Goodman Street South. Although I am on the vice chair on the board of the Highland Park Neighborhood Association, I am writing only on behalf of myself. With regard to the application for a certificate of appropriateness, A0631920, on the subject property, I offer the following input. It would appear that the applicant has made an effort to maintain the character of the entryway to the property. In my opinion, the size and style of fencing is compatible with the existing fencing and will improve the look of the entrance. I would not support a gate across the driveway, however. I do request the board hold this application until such time that the following issues and requirements are met. Project location on the property. This property has been subdivided into multiple lots. The proposed construction appears to be spanning 2 of them, specifically Lot 1 and Lot 7. These were not detailed in the application. Lot 1 is the area north of the northern curb of the driveway. The fence will be constructed on this area. In concerns to Lot 7, there are 2 sub-areas, sub-area 1 and 2. Sub-area 2 includes an area including the brick quarter round wall / sign on the south side of the driveway, as well as the south lawn. The area is subject to a conservation easement. The conservation easement was executed by the Landmark Society and the developer prior to the pandemic lockdown, yet it has not been recorded as the developer promised. The easement may impact the construction of the gate and should be reviewed prior to any approvals being made. Notice requirements. No signage was posted on the property advising the public of the impending hearing per City Code 120-188 L3D. Information was unavailable for public inspection due to the lockdown. I filed a FOIL for the information on May 15th, which is yet to be fulfilled. The staff report became available online only last Thursday, May 25th, 2020, less than a week prior to the Preservation Board hearing. And during the riots in Rochester, it is not reasonable or practical to expect the general public to be able to respond to this application in time for the hearing. Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1 temporarily suspended the requirement to provide public in-person access to meetings and authorized the meetings to be held remotely. It did not suspend the city code regarding notice. I again request that the Preservation Board hold the application over to their next meeting so that the applicant may, 1, produce an updated map referencing the construction to take place on Lot 1 and Lot 7, including sub-areas, produce the recorded conservation easement for Lot 7, 3, post the correct notice on the property for the requisite amount of time per the city code. Sincerely yours, Robert Thompson, 1068 Goodman Street South, Rochester, New York, 14620.
Hi, Chris, Tom Worth from the Law Department. I think there's a couple points that need to be addressed there that are legal points. And the first being that the Landmark Society Preservation Easement does not cover the work areas for these 2 segments of gate and fence. So that's not an issue here. Secondly, as we stated at the beginning of the meeting, we did realize that signs have not been posted, and so that this hearing will be continued over to next month to allow signs to be posted and for anyone who might have not been informed because of the absence of signs to submit their comments then. That's all I got.
And so, as is standard in our hearing, Ange, if you want to address any of the comments, you have 5 minutes to rebut comments or anything like that if you'd like to.
No, I'm all set.
Okay. So I will go into the deliberation. So typically I was going to read a statement for this, but just like the last case item, and as Tom just mentioned, we did not properly notice by providing signs for the applicants tonight. Those signs are required to be posted 20 days prior to any hearing item or any item for the hearing. And that was not done. So we cannot have deliberations tonight, and they're going to be moved to the next available hearing and continue to stay open. So with that, we're going to move on to the 3rd case tonight, which is our last item on the agenda. Let me skim through this. Give me just 1 second. Looks like I went too far. Okay.
In any event, I'm going to sign off. It's Ange and Gracia. Thank you so much for all your time. I appreciate your consideration. And again, I apologize for not having the documentation in front of me, but we will do our very best to get that additional sketch that you're requesting prior to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Be safe, everybody. Thank you.
So the third case tonight, case number 3, file A-065-19-20 for a certificate of appropriateness. The applicant is Megan McKenzie, the landscape designer for the property at 1100 Park Avenue. And the request is to remove a linden tree at the rear of the property to allow for the installation of fencing, which was previously approved under certificate of appropriateness A-013-19-20. I'd also like to note that all board members have visited this site.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, Megan McKenzie. How are you?
I'm really good. How are you guys? Welcome to the Cook's Kitchen.
We're all good. Thank you. I need to swear you in. Megan McKenzie, do you solemnly affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much. And if you wanted to give us your presentation, that would be great.
Absolutely. So I think the best thing is to go to page 5 and it's the original landscape design of the property. And the fence is probably about 95% done, minus 3 panels. And if you look at page 5, you get the location of where this tree is. And if you turn over to page 7, you can see a picture taken. I'm actually standing in front of one of the posts as the fence was being constructed, and you can see the tree just beyond on the right-hand side is the linden. It's got the V shape to it. And in the background, you can see the existing fence, which belongs to the academies, Medicine Academy. And the pink tape on that fence is the property line for Cook's. And if you go to page 8, that picture is taken from the Medical Academy's property. You can see the pink tape that shows you the property line. You can see the fence being built, and you can see the linden, which is the Y-shaped tree. On page 9, the tree is circled. On page 10, the tree is in the pink circle, property line are the green dashes. Page 11 just shows the corner where it is. You can see some of the leaves of the linden. And that's it. And basically, it's the last panel of the fence to be built on the eastern property line. And it's in the way. We probably would have had it part of the first permit, but didn't realize it was going to be in the way until now.
Okay, well, thank you for the presentation. It was very clear, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate you working with us as always. We'll open it up to questions for board members. We'll do this alphabetically, and we'll start with Deborah Beardsley. Deborah, do you have any questions?
No, Chris, I have no questions. Pretty clear proposal. Thank you.
Ed Kane, do you have any questions?
No, it seems pretty straightforward. Thank you for the presentation. No questions.
I'm next alphabetically. I have no questions. Thank you for the presentation. Jim Deviney, any questions for the applicant? Jimmy may be muted. Let me check. Jim,
Yeah, I
am. There you go.
I couldn't figure out how to, am I on now or?
Yes, you are. Thank you.
Okay, good. I couldn't figure out how to get around to that parking lot. I didn't realize quite where that was, but looking at what you indicated there with those pink ribbons and everything. So your property line actually cuts into the fence that they put up. Is that what I'm understanding here? Or are you replacing any of that fence?
We put the fence up. The fence that's going up, that picket fence that you see in the back belongs to the Medical Academy. And it's actually on their property.
Oh, it is, okay.
It
because
is on the Medical Academy's property. It's their fence. We are not touching that fence.
Okay,
It's just the fact that standing in the Medical Academy's parking lot, you can see the tree, you can see the property line. It's just another perspective to make things a little clearer.
okay. I guess it wasn't clear enough for me because I thought you were trying to replace that fence. All right, now I understand that, but I was very confused by that. All right, no, I have no more questions.
Okay, Jason Dobbs, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Just one comment. I pulled into the Academy parking lot today, and I kept looking around. I saw the fence. The fence you have up is beautifully designed. I really like that fence. And I couldn't find the tree you wanted to cut down. So I'll just take that as to if one was to go, it will not be missed because there are plenty of trees back there that infill that whole back. So that's my comment. No question.
Thank you. Dr. Gam, any questions?
No, Megan, just want to thank you for being here. I have no questions at all. It's a very straightforward proposal.
And David Matthews, any questions for Megan?
Gerald, you never don't have any questions. Come on. No, I have no.
Hey, this is like recorded for all posterity.
Well, there you go. No questions from me. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you, board members. If there are no other questions from the board, we will move on here and ask Chris Snyder if there's any testimony that he'd like to read into the record.
There is one letter for testimony. I will read the public testimony statement. This is the public testimony for case A-065-19-20 for 1100 Park Avenue for the June 3rd, 2020 hearing of the Rochester Preservation Board. All written comments were due on June 2nd at 5 p.m. for the inclusion into the public record. All written comments which were received after May 27th, 2020 will now be read into the record. All other comments can be found in the staff report. Please note that all comments were provided to the board in advance of this hearing. The only comment we have is from Vicki Burns. She writes that they support the removal of a Norway maple at the rear of the property at 1100 Park Avenue and urges the Preservation Board to grant permission for the action. And that's Stephen and Violanda Burns, 1080 Park Avenue. I want to clarify that in an earlier agenda that was posted for this, there had been a typo of the tree as a Norway maple tree. It is actually a linden tree. I did email this commenter just to advise them of that, and I didn't get a response. Yes, Chris?
I was just going to say, thank you. Were there more? Was that the last only
that
one?
was it.
Megan, did you want to answer any of that? You have the right to if you'd like. You don't necessarily have to.
No, it's to me, it's pretty straightforward. The tree is a weed tree from an existing linden and has grown without somebody cutting it down when it was smaller. So that's it.
Okay. So we're going to go to the deliberations. Again, there are no deliberations that are taking place tonight because of an error in public noticing. We did not provide signs which are required to be posted on properties of applicants 20 days prior to the hearing to notice for the public visually from the property that a case is pending. So since we did not do that, all of these cases will remain open tonight and are not going to be closed or decided on. So no decisions will be made tonight and they will be moved to the July 8th hearing. So this is the conclusion of the hearing. It was a very short one. Part of it is we didn't have deliberations. The next hearing will be held on July 8th, 2020. These three cases will be moved to that hearing to be decided on at that hearing date. And they will be streamed to live on the mayor's office's YouTube page, just as this one is. If anyone from the public or anyone who attended the hearing tonight has any comments or questions related to the Preservation Board or to this hearing, please email staff at preservationboard@cityofrochester.gov. You can find this on our website. And that is it.
Thank you, everyone, for attending.